What if the question meant to trap you actually reveals the truth about you? What if loyalty isn't about choosing sides, but understanding what belongs where? And what if one simple answer can completely change how you see power, responsibility, and faith? In Mark 12:13-17, we step into a moment filled with tension, strategy, and hidden intention. Jesus is in Jerusalem, and his influence is growing. His words are reaching people. His actions are challenging systems, and not everyone is comfortable with that. So a group is sent to him, Pharisees and Herodians. Now, this is already unusual. These two groups don't typically agree. The Pharisees are deeply religious, focused on the law and tradition. The Herodians are more political, aligned with the ruling power of Rome. Different priorities, different perspectives, but here they come together for one purpose: to trap Jesus in his words. They approach him with flattery. "Teacher, we know that you are a man of integrity. You aren't swayed by others because you pay no attention to who they are, but you teach the way of God in accordance with the truth." It sounds respectful, it sounds sincere, but it is strategic. Because flattery can sometimes be used to lower defenses, to create a moment where someone speaks freely without realizing the trap being set. Then comes the question: is it right to pay the imperial tax to Caesar or not? Should we pay or shouldn't we? At first glance, this seems like a simple political question, but it is carefully designed, because no matter how Jesus answers, it appears he will lose. If he says, yes, pay the tax, he risks alienating the people who are oppressed by Roman rule. If he says, no, don't pay, he can be accused of rebellion against Rome. Either way, they believe they have him cornered. But Jesus sees through it. Mark tells us he knows their hypocrisy. He understands not just the question, but the intention behind it. So instead of answering directly, he asks for a denarius, a Roman coin. They bring it to him and he asks, whose image is this and whose inscription? Caesar's, they reply. Then Jesus gives an answer that has echoed through generations. Give back to Caesar what is Caesar's and to God what is God's. And they are amazed, because in one sentence he avoids the trap. But more than that, he reveals something deeper, something that goes beyond politics, beyond strategy, into the nature of identity and belonging. Let's pause here, because this moment is not just about taxes, it is about ownership. The coin bears Caesar's image, it belongs to the system he represents. So returning it to him is not a betrayal of faith, it is simply recognizing its place. But then comes the second part. Give to God what is God's. And this is where everything shifts, because if the coin bears Caesar's image, what bears God's image? The answer is not spoken directly, but it is clear. Human beings, life, the soul, everything that reflects God's creation. This means that while certain things belong to earthly systems, our identity belongs to something greater. And this is the heart of the message, because the question was about division, about choosing one side over another. But Jesus reframes it. He moves from division to distinction. He shows that not everything is in conflict, that some things simply belong in different places, and understanding that brings clarity. This is important, because we often face situations where we feel forced to choose, to align completely with one side, to reject the other, to simplify complex realities into either-or decisions. But this passage suggests something deeper, that life is not always about choosing sides, but about understanding boundaries, recognizing what belongs where, and responding accordingly. The coin belongs to Caesar, but your life does not. Your identity is not defined by systems, it is rooted in something deeper, and this creates a powerful balance, because it allows engagement without losing identity, participation without surrendering purpose, responsibility without confusion. This is not about separation from the world, it is about clarity within it. Jesus does not reject the existence of earthly systems, but he does not allow them to define ultimate truth either. He places them in perspective, and that perspective is what changes everything. Because when we lose perspective, we either overvalue systems or we reject them entirely. But both extremes can lead to imbalance. Jesus offers a middle path, one that recognizes responsibility without losing identity, and this is deeply relevant. Because we all navigate different systems, work, society, structures, expectations, and within those we are asked to respond, to participate, to contribute. But the question is, do those systems define us, or do we carry something deeper within them? Because the danger is not participation, it is identification. When we begin to see ourselves only through external roles, we lose connection with who we truly are. And this is what Jesus protects in his answer. He allows for engagement, but preserves identity. He acknowledges structure, but centers purpose. And this is why the people are amazed. Not just because he avoided the trap, but because he elevated the conversation. He moved from surface-level conflict to deeper truth. And this is something we can learn from. Because not every question needs a direct answer. Sometimes it needs a reframing, a shift in perspective, a deeper look. Because the right question reveals more than the right answer. The Pharisees and Herodians wanted a yes or no, a simple response. But Jesus gave them something more complex, more meaningful, more lasting. And in doing so, he exposed their intention. Because when truth is spoken clearly, it removes the need for manipulation. It stands on its own. This moment also reveals something about wisdom. Because wisdom is not just about knowing what to say. It is about knowing how to say it, when to speak, and how to see beyond the surface. Jesus does not react emotionally. He responds intentionally. He sees the situation for what it is, and he addresses it at the right level. And this is a reminder for us, because we often respond quickly, reactively, based on what is immediately presented. But deeper understanding requires pause, reflection, discernment, seeing beyond the obvious. And when we do that, our responses change. They become more grounded, more thoughtful, more aligned. The question of tax was meant to divide, but Jesus used it to unify understanding, to bring clarity, to reveal truth. And that is the power of perspective, because perspective shapes response, and response shapes outcome. So as we reflect on this passage, we are invited to consider what in our lives belongs to systems and what belongs to something deeper. Where have we blurred the lines? Where have we allowed external structures to define internal identity? And how can we realign? Because clarity brings freedom. Freedom to engage without losing ourselves. Freedom to participate without confusion. Freedom to live with purpose. And that is what Jesus offers in this moment. Not just an answer, but a way of seeing, a way of understanding, a way of living that goes beyond the surface and into what truly matters. Thank you for watching this video. If this message spoke to you, take a moment to like, follow the channel, and share this video with someone who may need a fresh perspective on identity, responsibility, and truth today.